I won't waste your time and I will tell you exactly what this truth is. It may seem obvious at first, but you will find that your behavior suggests the opposite. So what is this truth nobody wants to accept? It is simply that there's no good left in the world, or at least that there's not as much good as people like to think there is. Knowing this truth is not enough. You need to understand it, because if you don't, you will constantly get played by people, used by society, and exploited by big corporations. Psychopaths, narcissists, sociopaths, manipulators will use your delusion against you and will abuse you simply because you do not understand that the world is an evil place and that there is very little good left in it. I'm going to make you understand and truly accept this truth by first exposing the fantasy that makes you think that there is so much good left in the world and that people are not innately evil. People think that there is a lot of good in the world. They think that sure, it's a little bit of a bad place with a few bad people, but overall, we are the innocent ones, the victims, the normal people. They think that nobody really wants to manipulate anyone in today's society, and that the elite few, psychopaths and manipulators don't really exist in today's world. They believe that their friends care about them more than they actually do. They think that people don't really want to hurt them, that most of us are normal people living normal lives, that nobody is born evil, and that evil people are just a product of their environment. These are the lies people subconsciously believe, the delusions people dwell in because it's the easier thing to do. Life is easier living in this delusion. This is why when a teacher tells a parent that their kid has been behaving a certain way that contradicts their perception of their innocent child, they are in denial and say, "Not my child," or they make up excuses to blame something else for their child's behavior. They simply cannot believe that somebody they raised and monitored all their lives could behave in such a way. I believe that if you are happy in a delusion and have no solution to fix the broken reality, you should stay there. But there is a solution here. The truth of the matter is that there is very little good in the world, and that's because there's a current plague of selfishness and entitlement. Few people would sacrifice their own self-interest for somebody else with no return. Very few people are completely selfless. Very few people would do the right thing if it meant that they take the punch. And who can blame us? Being good has a price, and the price is that you always lose. I used to think that the world needs to be protected from evil. I was wrong. The world is the evil. The reality is that there are people with no conscience of good and evil, or rather who don't care for it, who don't care for anybody else but themselves. People who would kill for the pettiest things. People who just want to see you suffer. And they are more common than you think. Just like you and I, these people seem normal. They are fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters, friends. We, me and you, are also part of this selfishness, this apathy in the world. We too are the selfish, the greedy, the evil. Because when put in the same position of power and circumstances, 9 times out of 10, we would behave in the same way as the people we call evil. But we are different because we feel something is wrong with it. We know it needs to change. We know society is wrong. Ethics are wrong. The justice system is wrong. It's all wrong. CEOs make effed up decisions and end up getting killed because of the standard. Drum it into your ears. Only the strong survive and the weak perish. In all honesty, life is easier living selfishly, living in a manner where the end always justifies the means. Although this may be the truth, I don't want to accept it either, and I think that we shouldn't. We should not continue to confuse being good for being weak. I believe that we should not be afraid to use force if necessary to fight back. I always hated when people said that violence solves nothing. Just take a look at the history books. What revolution ever took place without violence? When I say this, people think I advocate for absolute violence, and I don't. Like Sun Tzu, I believe that ideally, a war should be won without fighting. I believe that justice without power is inefficient, and power without justice is tyranny, and that's what I stand on. It is tyranny I hate. What's the use of being good if you lack power? I believe that the only way good can prevail is if the crusaders of justice have power and have force. If you are a good person with a good heart, if you understand the disgust and paralysis of injustice, then you should understand the benefit of power, and you should try to acquire as much of it as possible. This, I believe, is the only way to be good and not lose in a world filled with injustice. But first you must understand what power actually is, because few people actually do. In the future, I may make a video about power or on increasing your power in a practical way based on the knowledge I have gained from extensively studying books on power and philosophy such as The Prince and the 48 Laws of Power, for example. If power is something you want to acquire, you can subscribe, just in case.